Sam. Yay, I love it.
How are you?
I'm good. How about, are you keeping your head above water, literally?
Kind of. Yeah, it's been so wet.
I know. We are totally saturated. After more than 2 years we've been dry, now it's first time we're saturated again.
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
Yep.
Unless you're in construction.
Yeah, it makes it tough, doesn't it?
Working outside.
Yeah, how's your, do you have the addition?
Framed up? No, not at all.
No.
We're framing it in the rain and running to different jobs in the middle of the day when it pours.
Right. So not framed up and not closed.
It is framed. It's
not
partially.
claimed
We
in,
are
though.
in framing mode.
Yeah.
The concrete got held up because of the rain, because the finished floor in the one story that's on a slab will be the concrete.
Okay.
So it couldn't rain, it couldn't blow leaves, it couldn't, get dirty. It had to be
clean.
a perfect, yeah.
Yep.
So that was, put us back a week or two, and then now it's been raining for a week or two.
Yeah, it's everything I'm a part of these days seems to go slower than I expect it to a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But it's good for the grass and not grass, but the plants. How about that?
Everything's very green. Well, so the JoContractor show, here we are.
Yeah. Yes. Love that.
I know.
Love meeting new people.
I do too. And we've got a friend of mine here today. So Charlie McGlynn. McGlynn, right?
Yes, that is me.
I think sometimes I say McGuinn.
Like
Just
Jim
depends
McGlynn?
on how I'm feeling that day. But I got it right.
Yeah, nice.
I always get nervous when I have to introduce
That's
the
why you always
person
have me bring guests, because you don't want to introduce them.
It's not a strength of mine.
Yeah, it's okay.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm tired. It's Thursday, and I'm ready for the week to be over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long work week.
Yeah.
Now, you're a contractor, right?
Yep.
I don't know anything about Charlie, so
Okay.
I'm excited to learn.
Yeah.
And, I know Sam knows. How well do you guys know each other?
We know each other quite well, but I don't know a lot of your history.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you ended up here in construction, really. You said, you told me today you used to be in IT. I didn't know that.
Oh.
Yeah. My construction career it's an interesting start. I grew up being super handy, which everybody in my family was like, how the hell are you handy?
Because
nobody else is.
Oh, nobody else.
That's pretty rare.
That is
if
rare.
you looked in the family toolboxes, it would most likely include a phone book.
Right.
Not a lot of tools.
Right. A bunch of pristine tools.
Right.
And a directory of places you can get service.
Oh, that's funny.
The cordless drill was always a Black & Decker and not, some fancy Makita or anything like that.
Totally.
So in college, I majored in communication and was really into movie making and media production, things like that. But in the summers, I did construction.
Okay.
And one of them was helping build a camp out in rural Colorado. And
When you say camp, what do you mean?
It was like a high adventure camp that was off the grid. It's like platforms and army tents. And
Cool.
during the summer, we were building new cabins. And
Was that like a Knowles project, or was that?
No, it was through a church organization, and all they did was mission trips and high adventure, ropes courses, rock climbing, and whitewater rafting and things like that. But
Were you working for the camp or for
I worked for the camp. And there was a local sawmill in town that basically said, if you guys come mill your own wood, we'll give it to you for free.
Oh.
So if we wanted to build a cabin, you'd go mill the wood and bring it up the mountainside to, I think we're at 9,200 feet or something.
Really?
Just below the tree line.
I love this.
I couldn't work. I'd be throwing up.
It was a great, that was my first true experience of more construction oriented, putting a roof on, and
Sure.
we did just raw milled live edge siding,
Yeah.
It was
Rustic
super
stuff.
fun. Yeah, it was very rustic, and nothing had to be perfect, but it was really fun.
I mean,
milling your own wood too. How about that? I've never done that.
Yeah, it was in this great
not like
valley,
for
and you
something
could
like that.
see the thunderstorms rolling in the afternoon, and it was just you couldn't pick a better.
no, that sounds pretty
scene.
idyllic.
Yeah.
You said something there about you didn't have to be very precise. Like, have you ever met a carpenter who does think you have to be? Not a finished carpenter. A framing carpenter. Framing carpenter.
Yeah.
I mean, do any of them really think anything needs to be
No, it's
precise?
always like a strong 7 or whatever, you know.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, our framers now, we talk to them and ask them to glue and screw all headers, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know.
That was my little carpenter joke.
Yeah, it was a great experience. And then I did finished carpentry as I got further into college on a family cabin, and learned a ton from a guy who I haven't seen him since. I don't know. I've tried to track him down several times, and he was just like this weird magical guy that came into my life, and now he's gone.
Yeah.
No idea.
I've had a few of those over the years.
Yeah,
you
where
know,
you're
people
like,
you
man, I
work
wish-
with who are
Yeah.
And which state are we talking?
This was in Minnesota.
Okay.
Our family cabin was up
Okay.
near Cross Lake. And it was awesome. It was super fun. Learned a ton, and went back to school that year. And people would ask, like, why aren't you going to construction? And I was like, there's no money in construction.
which at that time
Back in
probably
the
was
day.
sort of true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I went into IT. Right out of college, I worked for Apple. And that
So
kind of,
Apple?
yeah.
That's a little one.
Yeah, just a small. I mean, I worked.
I think I've heard of them.
Yeah. They're the
Now that you
fancy
mention
phone
it.
that we all rely
yeah,
on
those
way
folks.
too heavily.
Yeah. Right.
And that was great, and that kind of tickled my fancy of like strategic minded and trying to understand how things work and troubleshooting, and taught me a ton about customer service. Like their training towards customer service was next to none. I always surprise and delight the customer, exceed expectations, do the right thing. That was kind of their motto. Like anything you can do to make their day, do it. And, you know, don't worry about your sale, like worry about the customer.
Right.
And
That's novel.
yeah, I mean, it was, and at the time, it was so complete opposite of how people experience getting tech help at Best Buy or any of these other big box stores. Like, there was nothing.
Or making a phone call and
Right. Dialing an 800 number and
right.
waiting. And it was just, but it was a great experience. And I loved that. And that kind of blossomed into more IT work for a church in town. And that led to doing a lot of like AV installs and build outs of different systems.
I mean, IT is a pretty broad range of things you could be doing, right?
Yep. So I liked that component. I didn't like the day-to-day of like, my printer's broken or fix this, do that. It was like, how can we make this better and innovate and upgrade? And that's what I liked, is the ever-changing aspect of that career.
Yep.
But when it became mundane, I was like, I'm bored. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
Around that time, so this would have been in 2008 or 9, probably 9. I met a guy who, through a church I was contracting at doing sound, who worked at Elevation Homes, which was a part of Streeter.
Okay.
Who became a good friend of mine. He and I started talking about houses. I should back up. During, when I was in middle school, my dad...
Way backing up.
Yeah. Big record scratch.
Must be important.
My dad built a house with T2 Architects.
Okay.
And he spent like 2.5 years collecting magazine clippings for this house. Ended up building this house, and I just remember going to that job site all the time and seeing it come together, and it was kind of that, and gave me a lot of spark into like quality craftsmanship and thoughtful moments in homes and things like that.
Yeah.
And so this guy from Streeter and I started talking about that, and we shared some mutual friends and things like that, and I kind of just was like, gosh, it'd be fun to work for this guy. And so for the next like 5 years, I would bug him a couple times a year and just be like, can I take you to breakfast? And we just built a good friendship. after that 5 years, I was working for Nina Hale Marketing Agency downtown, another woman-owned business, which was great opportunity. And I was their company liaison to Gardner Builders because we were expanding our office downtown.
Okay.
And so I was kind of like helping Gardner run the build out of our office. And this guy from Streeter, who's Nate Wissink, called me and he's like, "Hey, I think I got a job for you."
Finally.
Yeah.
After 5 years.
After 5 years.
Yeah.
And
That's what it takes to get into construction. Look at you and I just like jumped right in.
Yeah. I didn't know you could just like hop in.
Just jump.
Yeah. And I honestly, at the time, I had no idea about Streeter. I didn't know anything about, like, I knew like that they built houses, but I didn't know their pedigree or like what kind of homes they were building.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay. And I had only been at Nina Hale for a year, and I was like, well, shit. Like, I just started here. Like, I guess I'm moving.
Yeah.
And I got a job offer that I couldn't say no to, and so I jumped in.
Yep.
And trial by fire.
Yeah.
What were you doing for Streeter?
Yeah.
I was hired as a project manager.
Okay.
They had recently started a kind of a newer condo division downtown.
Okay.
So I worked in our downtown office doing condos.
Yep.
And
managing those condo builds.
Yep.
Okay.
well, they were build outs of
Build
condos.
outs,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I had 3 projects right off the bat, and it was chaos.
Welcome to construction.
Yeah. Project management
Here you go.
in
Good luck.
particular.
You know, I think it took me like 4 months until I actually went to their main office out in Wayzata.
Okay.
And met the president of the company.
Right.
It was just like,
How big a company is Streeter? Because I know they're kind of one of the big players in sort of the high-end residential
Yeah.
remodeling.
I think at the time they were 40 to 50 strong.
Okay.
Maybe I'm overshooting it a little bit, but they had, at the time we had 2 framing crews, a couple of trim carpenters, big office staff. But after 08, they used to have in-house design, but after 08, they kind of laid off the design
that was a
team.
tough period.
Tough period
Yeah.
for
Tough
period
everybody.
of time for construction.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. Rough days.
So yeah, it was a big organization, but it wasn't so big where it was like, you know, didn't know everybody. I slowly over that first year got to know a wide variety of folks and just great people and learned a ton. You know, these were condos for super high-end clients that very detailed plans, crazy modern execution. So it was,
So were they using outside architects
Yep.
then instead of an internal team?
yeah, no internal design. It was all external.
Did they work with like multiples around the city and stuff too?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you get to know the architects?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so my first projects were with Christian Dean Architecture and Brooke Foss Interior Designs.
I've heard of Brooke. I don't know that
Yeah,
one.
Christian's super minimalist, modern, just a wonderful, wonderful man. And actually, I didn't know much about modern architecture, and he, by just osmosis, I gathered so much knowledge from him and kind of learned like why modern architecture is pretty sweet. Like, it's not my cup of tea, but I grew to really appreciate it through his
Sure.
lens and what he designed. I mean, it was like we had no trim in the whole place. It was all like
Drywall
super
return.
sheetrock, you know,
Yeah.
tight reveals,
Yeah.
and like trimless doors. It was, you know, just bananas. And anyway, we got through that project, and the clients were coming back from China, and they were not impressed with how the project was looking.
Like your work? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
they were like, the drywall isn't great, the painting's bad,
Subpar.
the floor did not come out at all what we thought of. And
And did you agree with them? Did you think that they were
yeah,
right?
I was like, you know, I'm naive. I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, what was the expectation was when they started the job. Like,
Right.
I kind of came in
High.
right as they were finishing
Yeah.
framing.
Yeah.
And although the framing was getting finished, the cabinets were already in, except
Oh.
for their closet. I mean, it was kind of a weird
Oh.
Like now knowing what I know, I'm like, that job was a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, I see this on jobs that I work on too, where if the person managing it doesn't quite understand the
Order. Oh.
right? And
Yes.
and since like our companies, I don't know, I always had a full hand in all of it.
Same. Yeah.
Right? So like we installed the cabinets.
Yeah.
Right. And then we did the trim, and we did we even hung our own drywall and taped it sometimes.
Yeah.
And did the tile work. So like I never had to worry about that.
But if you're using your rational mind and you think about the order of things, and you're going, yeah, the cabinets can go in, and then let's sand drywall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute.
Like,
Right.
just
No,
use
that's-
your man
yeah.
mind. Sometimes, if you stop thinking too hard and trying to be so smart and just think rational, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I think people also get caught up in their Gantt chart or something.
Oh, yeah.
And they think that you have to build some fluidity into that, because they're like, but I've got cabinets scheduled now. Like, yeah, but you don't put them in now because
Right.
that's a real problem.
Right. Or like, oh, this guy's ready to do this now, so let's
We got to
get
let
him in,
Right.
and we'll deal with the rest later.
Yeah. So they came back and they weren't thrilled with you.
They weren't. They not with me, but they were just
That's the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steven Streeter and his brother came in, and along with this guy Nate, and they looked through it, and they were like, "No, this isn't right."
Yeah.
And I credit them a lot. I don't. They basically said, "We're going to reset. We're really sorry, but this is going to add time." And we spent another 4 to 5 months on that job and tore out everything that was wrong,
Yeah.
including flush base detail, all the doors, tile. Like, it was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Spent a ton of money fixing it.
Yeah.
And I learned, like, no, stand behind your product,
Yep.
do what's right. And, sometimes that's what happens in construction. And
It is.
sadly, there's tons of builders that you can talk to that all have war stories of when they had to eat a ton of money
Yep.
just because of something that didn't come out right.
Yep.
I always told the guys that worked with me, and they were good. And our projects, our clients had high expectations, but we weren't so high end that, there was a, you know what I mean? I'm trying to say
I
it
do
here
know what
without
you're saying.
saying it. There's an acceptable amount of imperfection.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
If you have to get a flashlight out to show an imperfection to me and get closer than 3 feet, then it's not.
Yeah.
Nothing's
Right.
wrong.
Right.
And I would always tell the clients, like, if you want more perfect, we can do that. But that's,
Right.
there's a fee for that.
Right.
That
Yeah.
isn't exactly,
Yep.
but we did really nice work. And I always told the guys, like, if you screw something up, like, I'm not going to be mad at you if you tell me about it. It's
Yep.
when you try and hide it that it becomes a problem. Like, if we have to fix something that's our mistake, let's just fix it.
Yeah.
Or that-
I want to hear about it.
Yeah, or that, I kind of made a mistake, or what do you think? Is this okay, Lori? And I'm like, you already answered your question.
Yeah, if you're asking,
Yeah. If you're asking. Yeah.
then it probably isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's that level of good, better, best. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And there definitely is, because I always say there's no such thing as perfection.
No.
Because that's beyond perfection. So, can you do good, better, and best? Yeah, absolutely. But
Yep.
Yeah.
there's no such thing as perfection. We're all human beings doing
Yep.
this job. And the other thing I do is I won't let my clients leave town. I want them in each step so they see it daily, so that we don't have, if you didn't like something, we can do it now a lot cheaper than we can if you're out of town.
At the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. No.
Yeah, that makes sense. I always wanted the clients
You
away.
do, I know. That's a good and bad thing.
Yeah.
It's totally a good and bad
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
there's nothing like they come home and are surprised, like, oh, that's not what I was expecting.
It's the decision making that you need them there
Yeah.
for. It's not the hand holding
No,
or the,
no,
watch.
no.
Don't watch over my shoulder.
I'll
Right.
charge you more for that.
I've had people
I do
sit
tell 'em.
behind me, and I'm like, if you're gonna sit there, I'm charging double.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
can't watch me do
No.
this.
No. It's too
No.
stressful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
No.
let's keep going. I want to hear how you got in your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I left Streeter. I went to a company called Norsun, which is
I've heard of Norsun.
they're huge up in Brainerd.
Okay.
Like they've got,
I have.
and they're probably over 200 people.
Wow.
Okay.
because they have a huge commercial division and great organization. Learned a ton there.
Yeah, it sounds like you really enjoy soaking stuff up from people, like, and learning about all of this
Sounds like
stuff.
you like people. You say nice things about everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really
You must
am
be a nice guy.
people person.
Yeah.
And, I love people my employee now, Justin, gets mad at me when I'm on the job site too much.
Okay.
Like, not in a bad way.
Not
He's
mad,
just like,
mad. I know what you mean.
He's just like, dude, I think you need to go to the office, like take care of some of this stuff. But when I started out, I spent a lot of time on job sites asking questions, learning, just absorbing. Like, I just love seeing how things go together, how to execute a detail. So yeah, I went to Norson and loved it. Great people, great company. Probably just after I hit my 1 year mark, my dad got diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And around that time, I had kind of been rattling around in my head, like, maybe I should, people were saying, like, dude, you should get your general contractor's license. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, just put it in the folder. And like, that way, if you ever decide you want to start something, you're good to go.
Okay.
So that March, this was before I found out my dad was sick, but that March I took the test and was like, sweet, did it. And kind of was kicking it around. And my wife at the time, she was saying, honey, like, this could be a great thing for us, if you did your own thing. And you've kind of talked about it, but you never seemed quite ready.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, and I just don't feel like I'm there yet. And I think I had a huge, like, complex of fear of failure of, like, if I do this, like, what happens if I screw this up?
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, we hear stories all the time of construction companies come on quick and then they're gone in a blink of an eye. Anyway, my dad got diagnosed. Norson was great. They're like, do what you need to do, spend time with him, travel, whatever will accommodate you, and which was very generous. And kind of around this time, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. I was kind of like, maybe it's 3 now. I can't remember.
Yeah, time's tough.
Yeah.
It is, especially pandemic time.
And then with parents getting ill, it just everything blurs together. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I filed the paperwork, got everything set up, kind of had a couple, like, prospects that I had talked to see if they're like, well, yeah, we would be interested if you end up on your own, so let us know. So I made the leap and kind of jumped in on a project for a friend of mine. And then it became clear that my dad wasn't going to do well. So I was like, time out, I got to, like, kind of deal with this. And thankfully my wife had a great job, so we were able to kind of make everything work. And I didn't start my first project until January of 22.
Okay.
That would have been,
So kind of as the height of the pandemic was winding down a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, so I jumped in, got a project. I mean, I had it bid, kind of had everything. And then probably that we were going to start. And then I called my client and I said, hey, like, my dad's on his last legs. Like, I got to, like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, no worries. Take your time. Which was so nice. And she ended up being just a dream first client, like, so easygoing and just super flexible.
They are out there.
Yes.
They're rare.
They're rare.
They are out there.
Yeah. And it was like the perfect, like, client I could have asked for my first project.
Nice.
And I started Edgerton, right then. And
how'd you come up with your name?
so Edgerton is my middle name.
Oh, what a great name.
And I'm named after my great uncle was Edgerton Bronson, and he ran Arrow Building Supply.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're destined to do this.
I know. And the funny thing is until after he died, I had no clue that he was in the building supply industry.
Sure.
Like, all we ever talked about was music. He comes from a long history of lumber folks from Stillwater.
Okay.
And Arrow used to be called Consolidated Lumber Company. They ran logging, I mean, all the way back to the late 1800s on the St. Croix River. And kind of, there's like great stories of like they had their office on one side and their competitor was across the street, and they like installed blinds in the office so that the competitor couldn't use the binoculars to look into their books. Like goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's still a historic Bronson house in Stillwater.
Okay.
And someday I'm like, I should find a way to buy that house and renovate it. I drove by not too long ago, and I was like, oh man, their garage looks terrible. Like this house needs to be restored to its original glory.
Revitalized.
Yeah.
Yep.
Little history lesson there.
Yeah. So that's how I came up with the name.
Okay.
So January of 2022 was the start of your first project?
Yeah.
So you really haven't been at it for just a little over 2 years.
A little over 2 years.
Yep.
Got very fortunate. We followed that with more great projects.
What kind of projects are you doing, or do you like?
So my first one was a kitchen and mudroom remodel, down to the studs, saved the original floor, and that was about it. And that was super fun with a great designer, Studio Day Design. And Sam, that's where I met Sam. She said, you got to call my guy Sam. He does great tile work. And
Okay.
got Sam in there, and sure enough, he did great tile work.
Yeah.
And that's how you met?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
It was all random small connections of the construction industry.
Yeah.
And so now we're mostly renovation. We just signed on our first new build that will start in September, hopefully.
Where at?
That one is all the way out on the west end of Lake Minnetonka.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're just wrapping up our first whole home renovation in Tonka Bay. And we've got another one on Casco Point. And I'm doing another one in Edina. Started a new St. Paul. I mean, we're very fortunate that we've got a lot of work.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you're booked out a little ways.
Yeah, I mean, right now I think we're probably not doing any starts until at least January of next year.
Right.
Feels really good.
Yeah,
for
that's
being in
great.
June.
Really good.
And as we all know, like you get down to when the shovel goes in the ground, it's no guarantee until then. You know.
That's true.
Yeah.
It is construction. That's right. There's always the weather too.
Weather, election year, interest rates. I mean, it all plays
There's
into
so many things.
Yeah, lots of factors that
Supply
affect
chains
us.
are still a
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little better, but it's still
There's
like
still issues.
you randomly get the phone call and they're like, "Oh, those are 10 weeks," and you
Yeah.
go, "Oh, that used to take 4."
That insulation, no, you can't get it for 2 years.
Yeah.
They've been on strike. Okay, how about this one?
Right, totally. Yeah. Yeah, and who knows what'll happen with hurricane season coming up. I mean, a couple years ago, what was it, the resin plant in Texas got destroyed, and so like people couldn't get PVC pipe.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Okay. Well, you don't need plumbing anyway.
Yeah, who needs plumbing, right? Yeah, just we'll
It's like we're
keep
going
the
to
biff there a
ABS.
little. Yeah, we'll keep the biff there a couple extra months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in last October I hired a guy named Justin England who he and I worked at Streeter together. So he came and joined me as our director of construction.
Okay.
So he kind of runs the field and hopefully add a couple more this fall.
What's your staff look like currently?
Just the two of us.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So we're lean and mean.
Yeah.
My wife is going to come help keep me organized starting in July.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, there's not enough women in construction, as we all know.
Yeah.
But I think that seems like it's changing or getting a little better, but, you know, it's still, I wish there were more because...
It's a good mix to have people always ask me, and I say this a lot, but, you know, do you have all women on your crew? And I'm like, no, that'd be a bad match. The mix is great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want all guys or all gals. I really like the mix.
Yeah. No, I think there's...
So that's what we strive for here, and it works. It's just different brains and...
No, there's different...
The more the merrier.
Everybody thinks about things differently, and I kind of, like, as I've thought about how I want my company to operate is to make sure we're not hiring the same person each time. Is really looking at what each individual is gifted with and how to utilize that gift. You know, like I know I'm terrible at kind of like big picture financial. And so I brought in an old friend that I knew and I'm like, you're way better at this. So like you tell me if we're making the wrong decision. Right.
Yep.
From a global financial strategy.
You know, you can't really do it alone is how I look at it. You need professionals that are good in the different areas that help that, you know, then you all rise up together and you don't have to fight your weaknesses.
Right. Yeah.
No, you absolutely can't do it alone.
No.
I've had this conversation so many times with people. Like, there are things that I'm 7 out of 10 good at. There's things that I'm 9 out of 10 good at, and then there's the things that I'm 3 out of 10 good at.
Yeah.
And if you're running a company, like, I really shouldn't be doing the ones that I'm only 3 out of 10. Like, I'm not great at big picture financial stuff. Like, same here. You know, I just doesn't work for me, and my brain doesn't do certain things the way other people's brains seem to do it.
Right.
So,
I think it's really, really good to work with people's strengths and not put a lot of emphasis on their weaknesses, because and from my experience is that their weakness is a weakness and you can't really, and the strength is a strength.
Yeah.
You can't change either of them very much. You can, you know, tweak them a little bit. So if somebody's bitching about somebody else, you know, not, let's say cleaning on the job site, there's an easy one. I'm like, well, that is their weakness, but you're really good at it.
Yeah, totally.
Put me in, coach. Give me a vacuum. I love cleaning a job site. I really do.
Yeah, I actually do.
I do
when I'm
too.
like,
all three of us.
I'm like, if I need a day out of the office and like, Justin, hey, is there any job site that needs a good clean? Like, put me there. Like, I'll do it.
I know.
That is funny. But again, if somebody's not good at it or organizing or cleaning or whatever it might be, you can't make them. You can.
No.
It's putting a square peg in a round hole, and you know why? It's too much work.
Yeah.
It's
no,
not
and if
worth
they're
it.
good at something else, just give them the other thing to do then.
Yeah. Somebody just said the other day that, you know, it's really good. I really focus on weaknesses and, you know, and working with them and trying to make them better. And I'm like, good luck.
Yeah. Right? No. I mean, like one of the things, like, people are like, why do you charge for caulking? And I'm like, because there's people out there that are really good at this.
Yes.
And I think it pays dividends to pay them to make it look amazing.
Yeah.
That's a finishing touch, man. And you're either good at it or you're bad at it.
Big fat fingers smearing it all over the place.
Middle of the road isn't even good enough for that one.
Yeah. When it's something, I mean, it's little things like that I've picked up along the way where I'm like, no, let's pay somebody who's really good at that to do that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't mean to embarrass you, Sam, but you're really good at tile.
Oh. Thank you.
You know, like
I think so too.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sam says he is even. Then you're not, and you're not like
I'm pretty
a braggy
humble,
kind of guy.
No, not braggy about most things. No, I think, you know, for me it's important. Like, I don't want to be a contractor anymore. Even, you know, I didn't hate it. I actually really enjoyed it, but it's so chaotic at times, and there's so much to it. And I already built up that company and watched it die. You know. So I don't want to do that, but you know, strengths, like, yes, I will do your tile, and I will do it well because I know I can do that.
Right.
So I like that. You know?
Yeah.
So, but thanks. Yeah.
No, it's one of those things where, you know, when I talk to clients, I'm like, okay, do you want like good, better, best?
Yeah.
You know, Sam's over here. We've got other guys. That
You have to have other guys.
You do.
I don't want to lay floor tile or do a lot of large format stuff or whatever. Like, I want to do the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. And like, I mean, that goes across the board. I mean, we used to use Olympic drywall at Streeter, and they were always double what every other sheetrock guy in town was.
Yep.
But it was perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yep.
So for some jobs, then you'd use them.
Yep. And they, you know, it was like, okay, this job deserves that.
Yeah.
So like when a client asks me, you know, oh, do you competitively bid? And I say, no. And they're like, what do you mean? And I say, well, I have a bench of subs that I know can execute at various levels.
Yep.
And when I understand your job, I will find the right team for your job.
Yep.
Just, you know, and I look at like I look at the mechanical team, like HVAC, plumbing, and electric, as like a rhythm section of the band. And I try not to break them up because they're always in the house together.
Yep.
And if they get along well, they're going to work through all the challenges together well.
Yep.
And that's those are the trades that I want reliability and great work. And so those are our guys, you know, and that's how it goes.
The key is getting them to all get along. Or getting a group of them that all get along.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, they're going to be I don't want to be working when there's other trades on the job.
Right.
You know, there's those people too. So, and it depends on the size of the job or the size of the room or whatever it might be too.
Yeah.
But everybody knows who does good work or the best work or the okay work or whatever, and you don't want there to be an imbalance there where you've got the best plumber, but then the electrician is subpar or something and making a mess. Like if all of I love good plumbing work and good electrical work and all the wires are in the right lines and you can just tell. When it's done well.
I love going to our job sites and our electricians are like that. Yeah. All three of them. And I'm like, and who walks around and looks at it and kind of I love looking at panels and wires and lights. This is so sexy.
Yeah. God, and when there's a good in-floor heating system or a big manifold with pipes going all over the place and they've done a really nice job. I'm like, man, good job, boys.
No, I spend a lot of time. No, I spend a lot of time in mechanical rooms, and it's like when those are done right, I'm like, all right, the rest of the house is good.
Right.
If it's a chaotic mess, I'm like, ooh, what's going on behind the wall?
That's right. That's right. Well, let's take our little break and we'll come back and shoot the shit more about about which trades we like. Yeah. Second half, we got a cold beverage
on a rainy day.
On a rainy day.
And we have a great guest.
Yep, Charlie. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
And Charlie's a general contractor, so we're getting to know him.
And I can say, because I'm not a general contractor anymore, so I'm not taking business from either of you. I can say that you two are two of the contractors I very, very much respect in town. I think you do a little bit different kinds of work. Like you don't particularly love kitchens or bathrooms.
No.
Right?
We do them, but...
What do you guys love?
That's my favorite is like a big remodel or a big build or a big new build and then structural stuff. So I like to structurally engineer it before the engineer does and see how well I do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And hardcore insulation stuff.
We're big into energy efficiency, and we have an energy engineer on a new build. And man, the details on that are, if I end up making money on this, I'll be surprised. But it's the clients are architects and hired an energy engineer from Vermont.
Oh, cool.
And we were able to get some things passed for our permitting that, like, no floor drain, who can do that? And only because this energy engineer says, oh no, you don't need that. You can just do this. And we are doing heat pumps without any secondary source of heat.
Wow.
Super heat pumps, so they go down to -13, but code in Minneapolis is -15 for the low end. But it passed, it went through, and we got permits to do it without any secondary source of heat. So those are things that I do, and I love learning that stuff,
No, I'm in the same, I love learning about that in terms of energy efficiency and building better homes for people. Because, I'm always kind of baffled with Minnesota in particular, because I'm like, wait, we're one of the most extreme climates in the country, and outside of Alaska. We have we're still doing Tyvek and 2x6 walls with no exterior insulation. Like, what?
We're doing it interesting like this. That we're doing a study with another nonprofit. They asked us to partner with them because there's some money for CEI. Continuous exterior insulation. Yep. So we're doing CEI with CEE. Did you get it?
Oh yeah, you mentioned this. Yeah.
So it took me a while to get all that together. Anyways, but so they're doing the testing, but we're doing this funding for $15,000 to the client to do if they're getting rid of their siding, they should, or we're going to do the exterior insulation on the houses. So we're looking for people, for clients that are going to be getting rid of their siding, and we want to give them money to do the exterior insulation, and then CEE will do the study and follow up and watch their utility bills and see how long the return is and things like that.
Yeah,
cool.
So we're also trying to figure out how to get contractors to do it and trying to make it easier for them. So we're trying to find some systems, and we've only done one. It's a 2-year project, and we're trying to shoot for 10.
Yeah.
And
So you're looking for people.
I found a perfect house over here in Minneapolis, or they found us. They found out about the grant.
Okay.
And called, talked to us, and they already have a siding contractor, which is fine. I said, that's fine. But the contractor then has to learn something new.
Yep.
Heaven forbid.
And this guy's really putting his feet back. Oh, no, well, no, I talked to ABC, and you can't put siding on top of that. And I'm like, oh, no, you can.
Yeah.
And I said, not vinyl. And they're, oh, well, what about, the windows or something? I go, well, the client will have to pay extra for that. We'll have to do bucks and things like that.
Yeah.
So those are things that I find very interesting and I love doing. And people, it's doing the right thing. When people pull their siding off and they just put siding back on again, and like you said, we're in
Miss that
Minnesota.
opportunity.
They miss because I'm not going to pull your new siding off to do it.
No, we did a new garage at one of these projects, and it's a nice garage, like in-floor heat, workout room, and it's all cedar shake. And at bidding, I forgot to put in cedar breather on the cedar shake. And I called my sider and I said, how much extra? And he's like, $3,000. I go, do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't bill my client for it, but I was like, that's going to save me warranty money. Now, I could have done exterior insulation, but it's those types of things where we know as builders that this is just after research, reading, learning, it's the better way to do this.
Right.
And even with exterior insulation is a great topic because it changes how the home feels. It's not just your bill's going to get lowered. Your home is going to feel better.
Yep.
You're not going to feel these cold spots.
It's acoustic. It
It's
sounds
quieter.
It's way quieter.
Yeah.
And building in our climate, if you're building a new house and you go up with exterior insulation, well, you got insulation right during rough-in.
Right.
Your trades are going to love you. Your temp heating costs are going to go down.
The one house I built was SIPs. And that, talk about quiet and
it's a good
easy
product.
heat and,
Yeah.
Really good product. The other day, was it Sunday? It got to 90 or something here.
Yeah.
It was really hot and humid. And my wife was out of town, or she would have put we have a roller air conditioner because that's all I'll allow because we don't need it because I did do all that stuff to my house. And so Saturday night it was cool yet. So I shut all the windows down, turned the ceiling fan on, and I had a friend come over the next day, and she walks in, she goes, God, you already have you must have your air conditioning on. It feels so good in here. And I said, nope, I don't. I didn't let the humidity in, for one, and for two is it was comfortable.
Yeah.
So
no,
anyways.
and some of those things, builders in the old days or architects, they designed that stuff. Some of, and not exterior insulation, but some of those weird thermal efficiencies, big overhangs,
or
windows,
big overhangs.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that stuff.
I know.
Oh, I know.
Keep my windows dry.
Yeah,
sun
everything
off
is
my
better. It should be code required to have 2-foot overhangs on every house.
Right.
I don't care.
Love them.
Right. Or, even you go farther back and we used windmills and we used, that cooled stuff down with water. I can't remember what those things were over the windows. They build them out a little bit, things like that. I don't remember. But there's stuff that they did back in the day that.
But a lot of the new construction, it comes down to people's pocketbooks, right? A lot of the new construction, when you're seeing the big sign and it's a former cornfield and now there's going to be 400 houses in it and they're from the low 270s or whatever,
Yeah.
those to me are disposable. I mean, they really feel like, the few of those homes that I've spent any time in, they really feel like 30 years down the road, most of this isn't going to be functional anymore.
So here's a question for you guys. Your friends invite you over to show them that house that was built very poorly.
Yeah.
And they're showing you around. Do you say anything? Nice.
Not really.
No, it looks nice.
I probably should, but no, I wouldn't.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. I don't either. But it's so hard, isn't it?
It's really
when
hard.
you walk in and it's like really shitty trim. The main thing it is that they got space.
Space.
It's
Right?
inexpensive space, but your vinyl siding is going to need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Your roof is going to give you 15 years. Your
Yeah.
windows are going to rot.
Well, no, they're mostly PVC. They might get drafty.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It was a few years ago when they were mostly crappy pine.
Yeah.
A lot of them are PVC. And I'm even a fan of like Marvin's Ultrex.
Yeah, I like
Yep.
those.
I like
They're
them
great.
because I feel like, man, I don't know. I think that's going to be there for a long time and not really give you too much trouble.
Yeah,
No.
I agree.
Over vinyl, for sure.
Yeah, the vinyl, man.
But I
10,
will say, like,
15
some of that
years.
stuff, I mean, and we've seen this across the industry, like, the quality that's coming out of some of these factories isn't what it used to be, even pre-pandemic.
No, it's different.
And
You see it in things. Yeah.
and it's really sad. I mean,
Are
know,
you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're out in Minnetonka and Edina. Are they choosing to do the right thing out there, or do you talk
It
them into
depends.
it?
You know, because we're dealing with some of this more upper end clients, and you know, we do have budget conscious clients. Like everybody's got a budget,
everybody
right?
does, yeah,
You know,
Right.
They all are inevitably.
Yes.
But I've kind of like, at least so far, I've kind of set like the thermal and the wall system, that is non-negotiable as a builder.
Fair.
I just like, I saw in my early years in this, like that we would get into that as a form of budget cutting. And I understand that, like at some point you got to cut everything. Like if it's way over, like you got to draw the line somewhere. But I also saw, when I was at Streeter, I worked on the warranty division, or did a lot of warranty work for my last 2 years there, and learned a ton because I was working on homes that had been around for
I bet you
almost
did
10
learn.
years.
Yeah.
And like, I tell people, like, if you're getting into this industry or you're in the industry, like do that. Like that's a great way to learn how things work and
Yeah.
how things
And
last.
what fails and
Yep.
what doesn't.
Oh, that's a great area to work in for a while.
Yeah. And so that's where I kind of said, look, like this is what I think is a really good wall system, and we're not going to deviate from that, which
Yeah.
for us, it's mineral wool insulation. We use Siga vapor products out of Switzerland, and their tapes are some of the best in the industry. And we're doing zip on our exterior wall sheathing because it's dried in
Yeah.
as soon as it goes up. Knock on wood, we won't have problems, but you know, every house will have a problem. It's
There's
just how
always
you deal with
something,
it.
Yeah, right.
But I just kind of said, like, this is
Good for you.
non-negotiable.
Yeah,
and
good.
I don't necessarily bring it up to my clients. You know, I talk about it as like, this is something we do. But, you know, I am waiting for that client to where I can be like, hey, would you consider doing this?
Can we go a little bit further?
Like, can we,
Right.
because there's always another level. You
Right.
know, do we go
Yeah.
to a 2x8 wall? Or do we do exterior insulation? One of the guys from Rockwool went and started a timber fill, which is a wood pulp fibrous blown in insulation.
I've just started hearing about. I don't know anything about it though.
Yeah, they're like, I think they're based out of Maine, and it's treated with borate, so it's antifungal, water resistant, and has incredible R value. But
Okay.
it's all recycled wood dust
I
from
have to
the
look
mills.
it up.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of it has to do with our regulation, really,
Yeah.
all of this. Because when people are like, oh, it meets code, like,
Minimum
yeah,
code.
Great. Like, it meets code.
Right, and code is like
Bare minimum.
bare
Yeah.
minimum. So
Like-
you probably are like, we want to exceed code most of the time.
Absolutely.
You know, code is just like the guardrail that we try to keep everybody
Right.
at. But like, even in the building industry, there's a wide swath of builders from production to super high end and anywhere in between. Yeah. And even if you're super high end, doesn't mean that what they're putting behind the wall is super amazing either.
No, I had a carpenter just return. He left 4 years ago and came back. And he's been working out on framing and doing jobs out in Minnetonka. And he came here and I said, well, here's your first job. It's this one that we're doing all this crazy stuff with. And he's like, I go, you're going to need to, he's an amazing framer and amazing carpenter. And when he's like, I need a day to study these plans. And I said, so is anybody, you've been out there now for 4 years. Is anybody doing stuff like this? And he goes, nope.
Wow. Traditional stuff.
Yeah. I think, and that's somewhat the responsibility is not necessarily the client. It comes down to us.
Yeah.
We need to be helping them make decisions and giving them the information to let them make a decision.
Yep.
I don't think people just want to make. Well, we all want to make money, but do you want to do the right thing and make money?
Yeah.
Or do you just want to do it? I've been trying to talk some of my roofers into doing super insulated roof systems because that's for a story-and-a-half house. That's the only thing you can do to help the roof dams.
Of course.
There's nothing else that works.
And
so,
especially on old homes.
Every roofer that I know and have talked to is like, oh no, I can't get my crew to do anything different. We just want to. They want to run in, slam them out, and get to the next one.
They blast through them super quickly. I get it, but it's still. It's too bad. I know I lived in Germany briefly, and the houses there, the minimum regulation, the code is that it has to withstand 250 years of service.
Wow.
Like.
Unbelievable.
How about that?
So
not 20, 15?
Yeah. No, I mean
30.
So. The house itself has to, is by code, it should last 250 years is sort of the warranty or whatever.
Yeah.
At least that's what I was told. But yeah, so I mean, they were, it made them more expensive.
Yeah, of course.
By, I'm sure, a considerable amount. But they made do with a little bit smaller space.
Yep.
And they weren't small houses, but they just were really thoughtful.
Yep.
Like, I think, 2,700 to 3,500 maybe in this new development that I was in. But man, were they solidly built.
Yeah.
And they were predominantly concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, super well insulated, super well built.
Yeah.
Components that were going to last a very long time. And they figure, well, it's 1.5 times regular cost to build or something like what we build. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
But look, it's not a 30-year product. It's a 250-year product.
Right. So, I mean, and I think, I always think about when we're doing homes is like thinking about who's going to be in my shoes 50 years from now doing a remodel on this house. Like, what am I doing to help make sure that this house is remodelable, is better than what we found it in, those types of things.
And instead of walking in and saying, oh, homeowner special, so we're undoing it and doing it and versus just doing it.
Yeah.
I'd leave creepy little notes in the wall too.
I do too.
Yeah.
Here and there.
Yeah. No, we had
one ring on finger.
There's a few notes
creepy.
that our framers have left behind.
Mine usually says, a woman built this.
That's awesome. That
so
should
proud.
be. I think that's so cool.
A piece of 2x4, shove it in the wall.
Oh man. So I was complimenting the two of you on your abilities, and I mean it. I think you are very thoughtful, both of you, and you do occupy kind of similar but a little bit different spaces out there in the construction world. But if a homeowner listening to this show, if they've made it this far, three construction folks sitting around talking industry, talking shop. If they've made it this far, like whether they're in this market or another market, like what are they looking for? How do they find the right builder? If you look just based on price, if that's your primary motivator, then we're not going to reach you.
Yeah.
But if there's got to be something more. And I think if a person's out there looking to get something done, like what are the qualities they need to look for in a builder, if you can articulate that.
The first one in my mind, it's got to be a good match.
Yes.
You need to meet each other. They're interviewing you, and I'm interviewing them, and I'm very upfront. Let's see if this is a good match.
I agree. Yeah.
So
On a personality
that's my number
level,
one thing that I look for.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
And what about them looking?
Yeah.
I think we've talked it a few times. That word of mouth thing. I mean, they need to do word of mouth. We need to look for somebody, and definitely the money is the bottom of that list. That you can negotiate, you can budget, we can cut, move things around. I think the personality, and then maybe word of mouth, and not taking the first contract. I think they interview them not for money, but for for getting to know each other.
Yeah, I think finding the right fit is probably I would say that's my first. If we vibe off of each other and, they seem reasonable and good people, excited about their project. And I think honestly, like when I get a client that their first conversation is budget, I'm like, I respect that. And that's where you're coming from. But I don't think I'm your guy.
Right.
And I don't have any shame in saying that because I'm like, the budget's always a
discussion
and down
point,
in
right?
a discussion, and at the end of the day, I know, at least I like to think I know what it'll take to get your job done.
I think there needs to be a certain amount of respect there, where if you're interviewing the contractor and the contractor says it's going to, I realize you've allocated $50,000 for this, but you did that without the knowledge that I have. And it's actually $100,000 is what you're asking for,
Right.
And if that turns you off as a homeowner and you're like, I'm going to find someone to do this for 50.
Yeah.
I know so many people who've been screwed so badly they're screwed by themselves.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Because you wouldn't listen to the 3 or 4 people who came in who really have good knowledge of how it all works.
Yep.
And they told you it was going to cost more.
Yeah.
And one way or another, you're either going to get there.
Yeah.
You're either going to end up spending that and you're going to be miserable.
Yep.
Because you thought you weren't going to. Or you're going to spend far less and things aren't going to be good.
Yeah.
Right.
Or people might even walk off your job or something. You know,
no, it's.
I've asked people that have gotten other bids prior to me, and I'm like, just to not waste everybody's time. Do you want to share them with me, and I'll let you know if I can do the job for, if I. First, we got to like each other, and then do you want to share them with me? And people, there's one guy that got just pissed off at me, like, that's your job, is to compare, and I want to compare you to everybody else. And I'm like, bye.
See ya.
Bye.
No, I mean,
if I like you and I want to work with you, and you've gotten other bids, and and you want to share them because you liked them too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
It never bothered me to think that someone was sharing my bid.
No.
Even with the tile work that I do, like at the end of the day, now that I'm on the sub side of it, and this conversation has come up recently, it's the responsibility of you as the contractor to recognize when your subs have underbid.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. If you look at your project and you say, okay, I know that's about $20,000 for HVAC or something, and your trusted HVAC guy comes back, or gal, I always say guy.
That's right, I do too.
We all do. Yeah, we all do. But because it's the universal guy. I think even the gals out there in the world are like, no, you can call me a guy.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm those guys.
HVAC guy.
General.
It's a general term these days.
That's how I use it. I don't know. I'm sure I offend some people.
Yeah, but if they come back and on what should be around 20, and they're at 40, you're like, whoa, wait, what am I missing?
Right.
Or if they're at 12, you're like, hold on a second, what are you missing?
Right.
Because I need you to, I don't want to overpay you, but I don't want to underpay you either.
Right.
And at the end of the day, like, it's as a sub now, I think I have to bid this. I want to give you the fair price. I don't make a fortune. I don't ever walk away from any job like, well, I don't need to work again. Right. Got it. Nailed it.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes I make a little extra money. Sometimes I lose a little money.
Yeah, that's the whole part.
That's the way it works.
That's the whole way this thing works.
I'm trying to look at it and reasonably and fairly say, okay, this is going to occupy 20 days of my time.
Yep.
And I need to get compensated for that 20 days of time, and some days are going to be 6 hours, some are going to be, it's going to be a 2-hour trip over there, and some are going to be 10.
Yep.
But I got 20 days into this, I need to get paid X.
Yep.
And then, you know, hope it's fair. So I don't know, I think you two, that's where I see working with both of you. I think you realize from a homeowner's perspective, you're not trying to screw them. You don't retire after their job either.
No.
You know, and you want each of the subs. It is not a good idea to have your sub on a job not being paid
Not
what they're
making money.
worth. Yep.
There's nothing worse, whether it's, you know, or same thing with my employees. I don't want, they're working their asses off for the company. I'd like to say for me, but I don't really look at it for me.
No, it's for the
because
company.
I try to pay a good standard of living.
Yeah.
Because they're working their asses off, and they're doing a really good job for the client.
Yep.
And they need to be paid well too. So
Yeah.
I worked for a restaurant, and they're like sustainable, you know, good food, but they didn't want to pay me. And I'm like, that's not very sustainable. Don't you want us to have houses and roofs over our head?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and I think in today's climate, you know, it's tough because we're up against HGTV shows
That lie.
all this stuff where, like, even I heard a builder talking about, there was an article that came out in Dwell magazine about what it costs to do various projects.
Okay.
And everybody was like, this is bananas. Like, there's
Not even
no
close.
way that kitchen was $100,000
Right.
or 75 or whatever they said
Yep.
it was.
Oh my
you know,
God.
it was just like, and it's like, it's doing a disservice to the clients because it's setting an expectation that you can do these things for super cheap.
And
I can tell you-
fast.
Yeah, and
Super
fast.
fast. You're like,
I can
no.
tell you firsthand because I did 5 shows with HGTV or whatever,
yeah?
with
Okay.
DIY. Yep.
Yeah.
And on 2 of them we were off camera. The homeowners, you know, they made it look like the homeowners did the work.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
then the minute the camera shut down, they'd be like, "Come on, Sam."
Yeah, yeah,
We'd go in and our
totally.
crew
Yeah.
would do all the work, and then they'd come back and, "You guys, you did such a great job installing this extremely difficult tile." And,
Yeah.
you know, I love
that's funny.
those homeowners. Actually, I'm still friends with them because they're like, "Oh my God, it felt so weird."
Yeah.
You know, taking your work and
Yeah,
saying it was
that's
our work.
bizarre. Huh?
But that's what TV can do, right?
Right.
Yep.
And then the other 3 shows, we were on camera. But I can tell you, at the end of the project, I know what I charged them for the work that I did. And I had, one of them was, I bid it at $35,000 for labor. All the materials were provided to the show.
Yeah.
I bid it at $35,000. They changed some pretty significant stuff. I think I ended up charging them $42,000 at the end or something.
Yeah.
And when the show came out, they said, well, you know, our budget was $10,000, but, you know, we had that big change in the middle, so Sam came back and he had to charge us more. So we came in at $10,700. And I didn't do any more
kidding
shows
me?
for them.
Yeah, you're like,
you guys are asking me to destroy my industry? Like,
Yeah.
you're just flat out lying.
Wow.
Because they made it look like labor and materials were included in this fictitious $10,700.
That's
It was just it was so
bullshit.
far from the truth.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's dangerous stuff. And I think, you know, this industry, the construction industry, you said when you were young and you thought about construction that you were like, well, there's no money in that.
Yeah.
And I think we went through a long period. My stepfather was a carpenter forever. He didn't make anything.
Yeah.
He didn't make any money for years and years and years. You know, it felt
Yeah,
like.
no, that's true.
That's not a sustainable way of doing business.
No.
It's not a sustainable thing this is why we have homes that have so many problems that were built in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and we don't need to get back there.
No, so. and I to back to the whole like vetting clients and how do we figure out if it's the right fit. I heard a builder friend who did there was a building science symposium that was at Surly a couple years ago. Did you go to that?
Oh no, I didn't. Was it the building science group from Denver?
No, it was done
At Surly? No, I
Yeah,
don't
it
know
was.
about it.
If they come back, I'll invite you. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It's all these Instagram builders, and one of them said, like, I ask my clients every time, like, what's your real budget? Because if you don't tell me your real budget, then I'm gonna assume that we can only spend this much, and you're gonna not like me because I'm gonna tell you things that you don't want to hear, which is you got to cut this or do this,
Right.
or no, we can't do it. But if you tell me the real budget, then I can know where I need to hit. And so I really like took that in and was like, I got to start doing that with my clients because, you know, there's always this jockeying with.
I hate that part of it.
I know.
I tried really
it's like
hard.
going to buy a car. That's not what I'm here for. I just really want to give you a good product.
Don't go back and talk to your manager. Just tell me how much the damn car costs.
Exactly.
Like, I just want to know.
Yeah. Like,
right.
And you know, I think it's, when we know that, then it helps. Like, let's just be real.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And same when I've got a bid presentation tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And I usually start at the last page of the presentation. Let's start with the total. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Like,
because that's where they're going to look to. When you give them a bid, they're going to that last page.
Oh, they,
How much?
they just want to know the bottom line.
Yeah.
yeah, what's the bottom line? And I'll tell you what, you know, and then we'll go back through and say, what does that mean?
Right.
Yep.
How did we get here? Where did we start? And, you know, here's all the levers you can pull to get your budget to where you want it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because like we're just here to help you. And that's how I view us as a builder is like, how
We have
can
skills,
I help you?
and that's, you know, if you want a professional and you're not a professional in this area, I am.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so personal when it's your own house, though, and it's all this money.
Oh, gosh.
You know, and people,
Yep.
I used to tell people, like, you're going to not like me for a while. Like, there's going to be a period of time during the middle of this where you're like, nothing's happening, and things are actually happening, or we're waiting for something.
Yep.
But 6 months after this project, after you've written the last check, you're going to like me again because everything's going to be so nicely done.
Yep.
And you're going to be loving the quality of the work and living in the new space. But you just have to know that.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
No, and that's, I say the same thing to my clients. Like, look, you might like me right now, but there's going to come a time where you're not going to like me.
Yep.
And we're going to get through that.
Yep.
We do every time.
Yep.
We're reasonable. We're all human. We make mistakes.
Yep.
Yep.
And we can do this.
Some of the best clients, I remember, like, you give them that, like, I'm sure there's, maybe not anymore, but there's a little bit of nervousness when you present them that bid. And you know that number is pretty big.
Yeah.
And you want the project, and you don't want to miss things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you really, you don't try and inflate it, but you want to give them the right number. And then they look at it and they're like, okay, well, that's reasonable. And I'm going to add 20% because I know we're going to go over or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Really?
God, I was sweating. You know, like I didn't sleep last night.
Yeah.
And you're just totally comfortable with this?
Yeah. Totally.
All right, great. Those were the best clients.
Yeah.
I know. Love it when people are sending you checks before you even ask for the next payment.
Yeah.
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 No, I know.
Good
We've
clients.
got a client like that right now. He's like, do you need money? I'm like,
Yeah.
sure, but you're fine. Like,
Well, and I would say, you know, as far as from the subcontractor side, that's true of contractors too. And I've done a little bit of work for both of you. I remember when my subcontractors, when you could just feel like they've got a payment coming up or something. They've got a payroll, they've got a bill due, they've got something. And they're like, so can I get that check? And you're like, hell yeah. Do you need me to meet you? Do you want to meet me? Like,
yeah.
you know, I'm sorry. And you two are like, as a sub, I'm like, oh God, I hate sending that text. Like, oh shit, I got a bill due. I need the money.
Yeah.
But
I try to stay on top of it and get, well, at the beginning anyways, I do. I'm like, here's your payment.
Yep.
Don't you want to get paid yet?
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's because when you look at it as the actual business that it is, like what's the path to the best outcome?
Everybody, make sure everybody's paid and has money.
Everybody's honest. Everybody,
Yep.
you know, communicates what they can. You accept your mistakes. You pay people on time. You do all of these things. That's the path to the best outcome. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to change the subject just for a little bit, Charlie. I want to get you to know you just a tad bit more personally.
We don't have that much time.
I know
we got
we
to do
don't.
this. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So what do you do for fun on weekends when you're not doing contracting and working and all that?
So my wife and I, we have 3 dogs and a cat. We don't have kids. We've got a cabin up north, and we bought it right before the pandemic.
Okay.
Which is
Lucked
where at?
out. It's up in Outing, Minnesota.
Okay.
I know Outing well.
Yeah, you know it well.
Yeah.
It's about an hour north of Brainerd.
Do you take all the animals up with you when you go?
Yeah, the cat is sometimes negotiable. My in-laws will watch him if we decide to leave him behind.
Okay.
Sure.
Which they're more than happy to. But yeah, we tend to go up there quite a bit. And that's kind of our little oasis.
And fishing and
Fishing, water skiing. We're both big runners, bike a lot.
Biking.
I'm a huge music guy, so I go to a lot of concerts. What else?
I
did
saw
do?
Justin.
Yeah, you guys saw each other at Billy Strings not
Right.
too long ago.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. I just met him like
The day
literally,
before.
yeah, that day or the day before. And I'm like,
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But yeah,
And what kind of dogs do you have?
we have Nova Scotia duck tollers. And they're
Say
like
that again.
What? I know what. Sam and
it's
I
a
are
Nova Scotia
duck toller.
Duck
Toller?
Toller.
Okay.
What do they look like? Or what are
They're
they?
like a smaller golden retriever, but they're dark red with white paws and a white
Damn,
chest.
that sounds like a fancy dog.
It does. Do they cost a lot?
Sadly, they do.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of them, so it's got to be kind of rare, right?
So I actually, when I was doing trim carpentry, back to construction, this dog kept hanging around and covered in ticks, not neutered, and I just kind of started feeding him and took him in.
I gotta challenge you on some part of that. Like,
You're not.
no,
buying
I'm
it?
just curious. How do you know whether it's neutered or not?
Oh,
You can
saw
tell.
something down there.
Okay.
Yeah. Couple of things.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Was this a
Anyway,
conversation?
I'm like,
sorry.
okay, this guy's clearly been living in the woods, so I took him in,
Right.
and he ended up dying, and then I found out after he died that he was a duck toller.
Okay.
Never heard of the breed, never.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
But it's
'cause
such a good dog then?
he was an amazing dog.
How long
and
did you have him?
I had him for maybe 5 years.
Okay. So you still had good.
Yeah,
good
I had
amount
a
of time
good
with
amount of time with him. Sadly, he had a heart attack of all things. Like on Easter Sunday one year, I was walking home from Sebastian Joe's in Linden Hills and died on the side of the road.
No.
It was like crazy.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and
I suppose they probably, they do too.
I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when my wife and I talked about getting a dog, she's like, I know, like, we might not have kids, but I know I'm gonna need to give you a dog, like, because I love dogs. So we got this duck toller, and his name's Eddie. Edmund is his full name.
Okay.
Okay.
After Edmund Fitzgerald and some other character from a Jane Austen book.
Okay.
Anyway, he was a great dog, and then kind of like right into the pandemic, we were like, maybe we should get another one.
Yeah.
And we called her a breeder, and she's like, actually, I've got his sister from the same litter.
Okay.
So we're like, all right, we'll come meet her, and instantly, she and my wife fell in love. Like, it was like, weird dog spiritual connection.
All right.
It was amazing. So we're like, all right, we'll take her. And she's like, the only caveat, and I'll give you a deal on her. The only
Gotta take another
caveat
one.
is I want a breeder. She had a miscarriage, so want to get her into a good home. So Maeve got pregnant like 6 months after we got her, had a litter of 10.
Oh.
Okay. So, but this was an engineered pregnancy.
Yeah.
Yep.
We dropped her back off at the breeder and got her
Yep.
pregnant, whatever. So she had 10 puppies,
a
and
lot.
breeder was just like ecstatic.
Oh,
And I'm
I
like,
bet.
oh yeah, of course you are.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's like, well, since there's so many, you can have one. And we're like, well, shit, we can't say no.
Because they're
Yeah, like,
puppies.
I mean, they're so cute. And
Yes.
So we ended up keeping her, the smallest of the 10, who's Brinley. And so we've got a little related family,
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
which is super fun.
So a brother, a sister, and a
And
daughter.
a daughter.
Son.
Son, Brinley.
Son, nephew. Yeah.
Yeah. Son and nephew.
Right.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And I assume they all get along.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
There's an occasional, scuffle or wrestle match.
Any family.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Eddie, I forgot to close the dog gate this morning, and Eddie snuck up and got into it with a cat, and he's got a bloody nose now.
Oh,
It's just a cat.
Yeah. No, it's just a crazy funny farm deal. But yeah, we
so
we
do you run the dogs? You said you were a runner.
Yeah, we do run the dogs. Brindley loves to run. Eddie loves to run. Maeve hates running.
Okay.
So she stays home.
Yeah.
She's like, no thanks.
Yeah. Don't need that
They
in my
love to
life.
swim. They're big water dogs, so playing fetch off the dock.
That's the duck
cab.
part of them?
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
No, apparently they're great hunting dogs,
Okay.
like for duck hunting. I don't hunt. We trained them to hunt, but
You did?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, they're well trained. I mean, people are like, well, what did you do? And I'm like, well, we sent them to finishing school.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because it's just, they're more enjoyable,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, well-trained dogs are interesting to be
Yeah.
around. They're-
But yeah, we love our dogs. And
I'm just saying mine aren't so right now.
No,
I've
mine aren't
gotten
either.
older and I've just gotten, I don't know, just wimpy and not so strict. And I don't know what that is.
softened.
I've so much softened. I'm
yeah,
sure.
no, I mean, it's like, you know, we,
Come on,
Food
dogs.
on the
I love
table.
having
it.
3
Have a
dogs,
seat by the table.
because you have 3 kids, right?
I have 3 kids and a dog and a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the third probably gets away with all kinds of shit versus the first.
I would say that's
I would say the dynamic there is so out of balance with discipline.
Yeah.
She's a girl. The other 2 are boys.
Okay. Yeah.
She's 8. They're
grown.
15 and 17. You know.
Yeah.
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 She
it's
gets-
just different.
Yeah. And I what I don't like to do is call her spoiled because
Right.
she's not.
Yeah.
And she people say, oh, you're probably a spoiled brat or something because you're the youngest. And she's like, no, I'm just pampered. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Handle it knows. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm not spoiled. I'm pampered. But, which is true.
Yeah,
because
no,
she's not,
and that's how our
she's not
youngest is.
naughty.
Yeah.
She's actually a really great kid. But yeah, I make no qualms about it. Like, she's my little buddy. She's
Yeah.
my favorite. You know?
Yeah.
I love the boys. I love them to death. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like Eddie, when we got him, it was like, no, can't get on the furniture. Like you sleep on your bed.
Oh boy.
And then by the time Brindley showed up, it's like, all right, everybody in bed.
Yeah.
Like, on the couch, no problem, you know. So yeah, I can
Chair at the
relate to
table.
the like it's whatever. It's chaos all
Yeah.
the time.
I get it.
But yeah, I don't know. What
So you're
else?
busy. Do you work up at the cabin then when you go there? Do you stay for a little extended time and work from there?
So honestly, my mom actually passed away in March, so it's been a
sorry.
kind of a like people are like, you really sure you wanted to start a construction company when you're going through all this
Right,
stuff, right?
right.
And it's like, yeah, it probably wasn't the best time, but like also a great time because it's like, you know,
It's what
Death
it's
is
telling you.
part-
What I hear is this. What it's telling you is life is short.
life
Do
is
it.
short. You
Do
gotta
it.
Jump
It
on
is.
any
Yeah.
opportunity and try your darndest and hope, you know, that it all works
Just
out.
do
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I kind of made an intention this winter that I would take Fridays and go to our cabin and work from there. Just because, like, as we all know, like construction, you get through a day and you're like, I've got 40 emails and I haven't even looked at my inbox.
Yeah.
And I got bills to pay and I got all these things that I didn't do all week. And unless I can like quiet myself and like really unplug, I never get to that. Even for me personally, I'm just like, you know, I need to take time to like grieve and do all of that work. And so I'm kind of trying to do that. And so far it's working out. Like I don't feel like I'm missing, you know, major things. And I've told my clients, like, I don't meet on Fridays, you know,
Yeah.
like you can call me, but like, I'm not going to do a client meeting. I'm not going to, you know.
I mean, as long as you communicate that stuff up front,
Right.
you can
Yeah.
always make it work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually started doing a communication policy when I signed construction contracts. So I tell my clients, like, look, we're your biggest advocate for this whole thing, but we also have families. We have our time, and you know we're available between 8 and 6 every day. But after that, like, if there's an emergency, we'll call you back the next morning, and if there's a fire or a flood, call 911. Like, more or less words than that. But, you know, it's kind of like, look, I understand you're paying us a lot of money, but, like, we work during your work day, just like you do. And I just,
No, that's totally fair. Otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of anxiety in having your house done.
yeah.
And so if you don't make those things clear, people will.
Cross
Take
those
advantage.
boundaries.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they'll get rid of their own anxiety on you.
Right.
Right. They'll stuff it back at you, and you're
Yeah.
like, I don't. Like, can we just relax
Right.
until tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah.
We will,
And most of
but
the time you can.
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I try to create some space, and that place is a special. Like, I grew up going up to our family cabin up there, and so it's a very it's where I feel most at home. If I'm being honest.
And
So,
those duck dogs need a lake.
they need a lake. Yeah, no, they go stir crazy if they're at the house too long.
On Tuesday evening, I interviewed Faith Boblett, who is a.
Oh yeah,
You know Faith? Yeah.
I've heard the name.
I
Yeah.
don't think I do.
Local musician, but she's from Outing.
Is she really?
Yeah.
No
So I've
way.
been talking about a lot of Outing stuff. Yeah, her
Cool.
dad, Paul Boblett, is also a pretty well-known musician from back when, and
Okay.
still now. But
Yeah.
But anyway,
How
Wow,
far
that's
is
crazy.
Outing from here?
Yeah.
it's 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah. If you take 169
Oh,
and then go past, take Highway 6 through Crosby,
I think I've seen this sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Or I've driven through it.
it's
Something.
45 minutes south of Grand Rapids.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a pretty idyllic spot.
It is. It's really
Yeah.
pretty up there.
Yeah, next time you're up that way, you have to.
Yeah,
stop in.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you two. Well,
Well, it was fun.
do you think?
Once again.
did we do it?
We did it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for being here. That was great.
Yeah.